My initial reaction is when children cry, it makes me very uptight. It makes me very uncomfortable in my skin. It's more like, please just stop crying, and it makes me angry at them. Good morning, Dusty. You're up?
Have a great day.
Bye, you too.
See you later.
See you. I wanted my children to have a normal childhood. I wanted that they should be free to feel emotion. I wanted them to experience a childhood without the guilt of knowing that there were children who suffered terrible nightmares from the Holocaust. You see, my mother was born in Auschwitz, and I was raised as a survivor.
When I was in grade 1, you had to write down where were you born. I had to write down Auschwitz. I was begging my mother, can you change? I don't know how to spell this. It was so hard. So then she said, you want to change it for Saruspatak? It's just as long as Auschwitz. So I said, okay. I learned how to spell it.
If you catch a cracker lighting a torch to any black church, we are to send them to the cemetery.
The Klan is not the one they want over the grave over.
Whatever happened in my life, it was always my mother's encouragement to get me through the hard times. 1943, my parents got married, and like young couples, they were very happy. Until 1944, March 19, Germany invaded Hungary, and they took them to Auschwitz, and my mother was pregnant with me already. They divided the men and the women, and that was the last time my mother saw her husband, my father. My mother constantly had her nightmares and waking up and screaming. She had these dreams. She's running away, and she's dragging me with her. And then when my daughter Kati was born, it changed. She was running with Kati.
My mother always raised me not to tell anything to my grandmother because she didn't like to worry her. She suffered enough, so we didn't tell the problems.
My daughter was 16, and she had a school project about family trees, and she was begging my mother to talk to her. And then my daughter called her up on the phone, and she taped the whole conversation. Are you here?
I'm here.
Yeah.
Are you here?
Yeah?
please tell me stories?
No,
Why can't you tell me stories?
it's so painful to talk about it.
Did we listen to this tape ever together?
Yes, we did.
Yeah?
Every minute of the life, she's there. Like I hear her. I hear her when I eat in the hotel and she says, that's too much. She's there. She's just there. And if I have sorrow, I tell her. If I have happiness, I do tell her. She's there.
You're making this hard.
I'm making it hard, why?
Because you're not telling me things.
Darling, I forgot.
Do you remember you told me when you went there, they separated, they were sending people to the right and to the left?
Yeah,
And you went up to Mangala?
yeah. He said, you stupid goose.
This is good.
Do me done. Because I told him I am pregnant.
And what happened after that?
Nothing happened. I went to the labor camp.
What did you do?
I worked, I built a road. When I was 8 months pregnant, a woman doctor came over to our barrack. She came over and she offered an abortion. I promised her to think it over because she really insisted on it, and she said I am too young to be God because we can't trust Mengele. Maybe he will take me to the hospital and I will give birth to my child, and then they take my child away with me together to the gas chamber. So she will do it very secretly. That night I dreamt with my mother and she told me, Verushka, when you are 8 months pregnant, you don't do this. This child is alive already and ready to leave. Believe in God and Hashem will be with you. Maybe a miracle will happen, but don't do it.
Mengele was experimenting. I am in the uterus, and he is giving injections into the uterus, and we don't know what was in it. He played that a little bit, and my mother said it was very painful. The injections were very, very painful. In 2016, I was invited for the psychiatrist conference to talking about the trauma, which I never recognized I have. It was the normal life for us, but it's not normal for the next generation. And they were suffering from our pain and didn't feel like a trauma.
When the Germans came to get the Jews in Hungary, it was the day after Passover, and they had no bread in the house, so they had no food to take with them. The worst part was really the constant guilt. You know, you can't feel happy, and you can't feel sad, and you can't feel scared, and you can't enjoy things because there was the Holocaust, and people suffered so much, and people went through so much, and I couldn't stand it. That, for me, was the worst, this guilt, you know? The Holocaust is there. It's always there. It's always present. It's always present. Here she is. Good morning. Hey. Hi. Good morning. My grains for my sourdough bread. Ready? Yep. Okay. Emotions was not something you felt in our house, or you showed, or you displayed. My mother, because of what my grandmother had gone through, her life mission was to raise a survivor. Got it? I remember, like, any time I would complain about something, like, oh, the dishwasher broke, you know, and her and my grandmother would look at each other, and she's like, oh, she would never have survived. All right. So let's keep going.
The love, what I received from my parents, canceled out all the traumas. Is it nature or nurture? But the nurture gave me strength. My mother called it miracle. You are a miracle, baby, and I'm happy I have you. Case finished. That was matter of fact. Wait for your old mother.
I don't think she's old. Only she thinks she's old.
75 is old.
You're not wheelchair material. Sorry.
I loved it. Oh, wait a minute. Are you sure this way? No. Can you hold that? I'm obsessed with them. Okay. We're making a picture. Can we include you?
Can you ask him?
Which one? The tall one? Okay. Hi. Hi. Excuse me. You speak English, they said. And we would like to have pictures with you. Come. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you what you're doing. Thank you so much. I'm so proud of you. Okay, I got my trip.
It was end of December, around the 20th, when I felt the pain, and I told the blocker tester that I feel cramps and pain. And then she asked me to climb on the top of the bunk. And she came with me, and she helped me to give birth to Mommy. And nobody knew about it. The baby was 1 kilo, that's a little bit more than 2 pounds. Then we had to stand in line, so approximately 3 hours after giving birth to Mommy, I went down because the Germans came and counted us. And then I went back again, and Mommy was so weak and so tiny, she didn't cry, so nobody knew she was born.
You wrote that the Germans came into the children's camp and they said, now you have to come with us.
Yeah, and they took us to a tunnel. And they said they seemed to exterminate us. And before we reached the tunnel, the Russians came. And the Germans escaped. That's why I am still horrified when I see a tunnel.
When we went to Auschwitz, the whole time I was telling my daughter, how did she do it? How on earth she did it?
Magyar történelem legkalázabb árulása folytán nehéz örökség jön rá. A német fasiszta hordák és kaszt nyilas cserédei után.
My mother, when she came back in 45 October with me, she stayed in Budapest with mother a while, and they put ads in the newspapers looking for Dr. Bány Tibor, my father. End of October, I was almost a year old and 3 kilos. When my mother got back to Hungary, she was putting me in the carriage. They called her the crazy lady who has a raggedy doll in the carriage, and she thinks it's a baby. I didn't look like anything, a living person. So her own mother was begging her, Verushka, let her die, because this will never be a baby, it's never be anything. So she says, no. That was kept me alive in Auschwitz. I'm going to have the baby. I am going to make sure that baby will live. And one doctor, I still remember his name, Fabian, that was his name. He said, okay, let me see this baby. And he said to my mother, if this baby lifts up her head, this baby is going to live. So now, pray. And I did. So I lift up my head, and he said, I'm going to take care of her. Until age 6, he had to take really care of me. Then my mother, for a while, she stayed, but she said to her mother, if my husband will come back, he's going to look for me in Sárospatak. And she went on to Sárospatak. She tried to get milk for the baby. She couldn't get milk for money, and she was crying, and my mother was a very tough woman. And my future stepfather had a textile store, and he was standing at the door and said, "What happened to you? You never cried." Said, "Yes, I have all the money in the world, but I can't get milk." My future father said to her, "If you cook for us, we have all the ingredients. You have milk for your baby." So they cooked together until they got married. She bloomed again when she married my father. Every morning he went to the market and he brought the seasonal flowers, and my mother woke up and the flowers was on the night table. Every morning when she woke up, he was singing to her. It sounded like Hungarian. Lehoznám néked a csillagot is az égről. I would bring down the stars from the sky, and he had beautiful voice. This is how I grew up. Such a love, I cannot tell you.
Lehoznám néked a csillagokat is az égről. Tündér vagy te a legtündéribb tündérmeséből. Kezed a kezembe, fejed a kedlemre hajtanám.
I went through a lot of pain as a child. My childhood is not a happy memory that I'd want to go back to, unlike my mother, who'd jump, at the chance. So I didn't want the same for my kids, and just because of what I had gone through, I didn't want them to suffer. So I pulled myself together and did what needed to be done. The Holocaust was introduced to me at a very young age. I remember being 6 years old and already not being able to sleep at night. I needed my mother to sleep with me. I would have nightmares of Germans and tanks and running after me, and then I was dead, and then I was nothing and nobody would remember me. These thoughts were constantly in my head, and I constantly worried about them. My mother was very verbal about it, as you know she is now. She wanted me to hear the stories from the source. Her friends were always my grandmother's age group. So I was around a lot of older people, a lot of survivors. And I don't know when she switched to this survivor mode, I have to build a survivor. When I was 3 years old, she taught me to go shopping by myself. At 10 years old, she taught me how to travel the bus and the subway by myself, so that you never know what will happen. I should know how to get around, get away. When I was giving birth the first time, and she had told me stories about people dying during childbirth. Here was coming, to give birth, and I was really scared. And so I called her and I said, "I'm scared." "What? You're scared? Your grandmother gave birth in Auschwitz with no doctors, no nurses, no medical care, and you're telling me you're scared?" So, yeah, there went that. So I kept trying, but I knew I'm just gonna get hurt in the end. It's not worth it. It's not worth it.
Baby. I'm not getting here. Come here.
I felt like, look at your grandmother. She had no future, no husband at the side, no clean home to go home. So why are you afraid? She did it. She showed you how to do it. She still didn't forgive me for that.
Look, baby. Look.
Baby. Want to make nice to baby? Nice, baby.
You think this is desert, what they were talking about? They had to travel through?
I don't know. How could they walk?
Could you imagine with kids and animals? Climbing out of these mountains is like coming out of trauma. There's ups and downs, and sometimes it hits you more than others, right?
Okay.
And it's a climb, it's difficult, but when you reach the top, then you feel good.
But we didn't reach the top yet. We are here. The top is there. That's for Faggy.
That's for Faggy to do?
Yeah. This nem jó itt.
Maybe come up here, Ma. Up here. How's that?
I'm just sliding down.
So give me your hand.
No. 80.
At 80, you'll give me your hand?
Yeah.
Okay. We have what to look forward to. My mother's gonna hold my hand.
Yeah. Up.
Ta-da! We did it!
In '56 came the revolution, and every morning we find the papers on our door, dirty Jew, go back to Auschwitz. I thought we were loved in Sarospatak because we had store and they came and we were nice to the people. But when in '56 this neighbor turned against us, you dirty Jew, you go back to Auschwitz with your stupid father. And I remember I couldn't move. I knew her. She was our best friend. What happened here? My mother told me I was 12. So he said, you know, it might happen and we might have to run and they might take us. And I was put under the table at night because they broke our windows with stones. So my mother was petrified the stone can hit me. My father said, you know what? We're going out on the street. We're going to show them. We're not afraid of them. I was very afraid, but he was holding my hand, and we went out to the street. He walked very slowly because he was not well. It was a constant stress. The stress killed him. When he passed away in April '57, my mother said, that's it, we're going away from Sarospatak. So we moved to Budapest.
I really wanted to go home and see my house where I was born. I wanted to do it with my mother. I wanted her to tell me the stories. This is where you were born, and this is where we walked, and this is where you went to school, and I went to school. I wanted to get the chance to do it with her.
You see, that's the market ticket, and that's where we went every day. Swimming pool there.
I'll tell you the truth, I don't remember much. I was 5 when we left, so it's just flashes of memories. So I remember going shopping and taking receipts and the door falling on my finger and me going screaming up the hallway and everybody wondering what happened. Not too much.
Imádtam itt lakni. Csak kinézni az ablakon, az egy szórakozás volt. A mi ablakunk ott volt. Biztos, hogy nem lehet bemenni, de valahogy bemegyünk. Jaj, mennyi emlék van itt, hogy imádtam itt lakni. Ha megnyílik az ajtó, nyomják meg az 1-es gombot.
There you go.
Szóval szeretném a lányomnak megmutatni ezt. Ez volt az ablakunk, és itt lógtam ki este, amikor ez ki volt világítva, és minden olyan gyönyörű volt. Ez volt a lakásom, ez az ablak. Imádtam itt lakni.
When I was young, she would tell me all the stories of the war. Of course, way too young and way too early. I didn't let her tell my kids. I told them no talk of the Holocaust, no Holocaust movies, no Holocaust books till they're 12. And she thought I was crazy. They have to know. No, they don't have to know. I went through a lot of stress because of it. You put a lot of guilt on me. You made me feel scared. I don't want you doing that to my kids. All right. Yechiel.
Yeah, I mean, hamotzi lechem min haaretz.
Amen.
Whenever we go to the washroom, we thank God for all our plumbing working properly. We don't mean the plumbing in the, I mean the plumbing in our body.
Art.
What else? It's just relaxing.
Can I have cookies?
I'd like you to dance with me.
Hour later, like 5:30.
I was made to feel guilty that I have a good life and I'm not being murdered and I have whatever I want and whatever I need. I was made to feel guilty about that I'm not doing enough, that I'm not good enough, that I'm not accomplishing enough, that I'm not skinny enough. No matter what I did, it wasn't good enough. You know, I was pushed to do more and more and more.
You know, I was 3 years old when I wanted a girl. Husband was not so important to have, but a girl. And I went to the hospital. I remember I was looking out on the windows and I had the pain. And I said, how come everybody is sleeping? You know, I'm going to have a baby. How come everybody can sleep? And then they told me, it's a little girl. And then I was seven. I have my girl.
A good memory. What came to mind, I was thinking, happy moments, was camping. Do you remember we used to go camping every summer?
Yes.
And you used to help me collect tadpoles in a jar.
She went to ballet, she went skating every day, in the morning and the afternoon. And I was hoping she's going to be one of the famous skaters. You don't remember the skating?
I remember the skating. Sorry, I remember not liking it very much, but I had to do it. So my father would promise me every time I went around, he would give me a ragogumi.
A chewing gum, which was a major thing.
Yes, you know? Nobody had gum, but it came from Canada.
My mother used to send her in the mail. My mother left the country illegally, so we were bad citizens. I tried. Every second year we could give in the application. And finally, we got a passport with some help. 1973, we were able to come out. First, we stayed in Vienna, and we were together in Vienna with Russian families. It was a big house. Everybody got a room and common places. And I was complaining to my mother, there is no hot water. So she wrote back to me, no hot water? Do you think in Auschwitz we were dreaming of hot water? In Auschwitz, and you be happy, you open the faucet and the water comes out. That was her reaction, no compassion. You know, be happy, water is coming out of the faucet.
When we first came out to Canada, we were neighbors. We lived in the same building, and she really raised me, you know? Whenever I had a problem, I ran there. I started my interest in cancer research at a very young age in high school. because I saw my grandmother and my grandfather and all her friends who were also survivors. They all got sick and they all died from cancer. They were young. They were in their early 70s, you know? So I always felt that there's some kind of association between perhaps what the chemicals that they were given or injected and between the cancer itself. When my grandmother died, I became my mother's mother. And I was really happy at first because this is the first time I was having a good relationship with her. She needed me, and she confided in me. I didn't realize that it just wasn't a healthy relationship. It was a codependent relationship. And she would tell me all her problems, and that would put a lot of anxiety on me. Nothing was ever enough. It came to a point where I had to say, this is not working for me. I told her I cannot have a relationship with you unless you come with me to a therapist together and we put this relationship back together. But my mother, being my mother, a therapist is for weak people who don't know how to take care of themselves and deal with their own problems and refuse to come with me.
All my friends were afraid it could happen again. And we tried to raise the kids to be independent. It's a different brain wiring.
But you weren't raised like that.
In a way, until I was small, no, but I still went shopping by myself, and that's when...
Not when you were 3.
Not when I was 3, but it was downstairs, you know, like...
It wasn't in the building. It was outside on a main street.
No, Kati.
You had to go outside.
No, that was the sidewalk, and from the sidewalk, we went into the...
Yes, but you had to go out on a main street.
So I followed you. I did follow you the whole time, but I wanted you to be independent. In any case you will get separated, you know how to survive. My mother never set me in her lap. My mother never hugged me and said, I love you, and I knew I am loved. If you speak any of the survivors' kids, like my friend, none of us were hugged and kisses, but we knew we are loved. That's what I was doing also. I didn't think it needs to be tell you every minute, I love you, I love you, I love you, or kisses and this and that.
It's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing to say I love you or to give a hug. People need it. There's a reason it's there. It's talked about in the Torah. There's a reason. You make it sound hug and kisses. It's not a bad thing. It doesn't make you weak just because you tell someone you love them.
Why, you didn't feel you loved?
No, I felt hated. The time you gave me a kiss was when I left, and you were like, oh, you never know when let me give you a kiss, because you never know when we'll see each other again.
Maybe.
You didn't make me strong. You didn't make me not scared. You did the opposite. You made me scared that it could happen any time. I never could go to sleep by myself. It's because I had nightmares of Germans and tanks chasing me.
But I lie down with you.
Yes, you did.
I tell story every night.
Yes.
That's not love.
Hug and kiss and I love you is needed.
Okay, sorry.
Now he sees the video.
Okay, sad talk. It was nice to see you.
I really think she just really meant to raise a survivor. I really believe it. She saw a lot of anti-Semitism. She lived through 56. She was 12 years old. She knew what it was about. There weren't blinders on her. And as the psychologist had explained to me, because she was born in a situation of trauma, there are certain chemicals that go through her body that are unlike other people. And me, I cannot stand it in my body. I need to feel calm and relaxed. And she's in a constant fight or flight. You need something signed? Did you do something? I never knew about this emotional intelligence, until my youngest went to school. She brought this home. I have a high enough vocabulary. I knew what the words meant, but I never realized these were emotions. I knew angry. That's it. So the first one is happy. Happy is what you feel right before bad things happen. Afraid. Afraid is something you keep to yourself because it's a sign of weakness. Hopeful. No. Wow, there's so many emotions. I didn't know there's so many emotions. I knew angry, happy, sad, And there was like this whole other world there that I never knew about.
I felt my life was normal. I thought I am okay until I got the invitation from Dresden, the conference about the prenatal trauma, transfer from mother to unborn child. I was 71 years already.
Dresden was really, I think, life-altering for her. She gets a lot of feedback from different people, and that's opened up something in her. And as I said, the psychologists have come to talk to her and me. Since they come, the guilt pressure has stopped. She's given me some freedom, some space, and she's letting me heal. It's a long process, but she's letting me heal. Hi. She doesn't know it because we don't talk about it.
My mother, all her life, she carried these and many more scars, both physical and psychological. My mother never spoke about these horrors to anyone. An inner voice told her that nobody could understand these experiences except only those who had been through them. When she lay dying of cancer at the age of 71 in Toronto, the nightmares came back. She saw Mengele standing at the door of her hospital room. No amount of morphine could make him disappear. She died on January 28 because January 27 was the liberation of Auschwitz, and she said she just not want to die that day.
Last year, a group of psychologists came to see me. My mother had met one of them at Dresden.
I threw them out. I said I never want to see them again.
We never talked about it with each other. They were a go-between between the two of us. And, but we did talk of things as a result. It did smooth things over, and she was able to see my side.
Can you cut it for a minute? I don't want it on the film. When these psychologists came, they came with 2 flowers, and they wanted me to apologize from Kati what I did. I was not religious. I didn't want to be religious. And Kati wanted to be religious. So when she came home and she said she wants to be religious, it was like my life is over. But I did it because of her. I changed totally out of that. I still remember when they told me, you know, like they will take her to the Jewish school if I keep Shabbos. To me, to keep Shabbos, not to go anymore for Swiss chalet, not to be at the chicken place, not to enjoy in Toronto the little restaurant, not to be free and go and do, you know? My life, I felt it's over. I pulled out the phone. I didn't want to speak to my boss, who later was my husband. I didn't want anything. And I tried her. We had a little dog. I said, Kati, you have to give up the dog. Okay, no problem. Kati, you have to give up the TV. Okay, no problem. Nothing was a problem. So I have to give up my life. That's how I felt. I should apologize from her. I did everything in my power to make her happy. I didn't tell you I love you. I didn't hug you. But I did everything what you wanted to make you happy. No, she doesn't want to know she wasn't religious. She doesn't want the world to know she wasn't born into that. Kati.
I'm fine with it.
To me, I don't care, you know, but it's for her.
I mean, everybody knows if you were born in communist Hungary, you definitely weren't religious, you know? So there's no hiding that, you know? When I was in grade 6, I told my mother I want to go to a Jewish school. And in truth, it was the best thing that ever happened in my life. It was when I stopped having nightmares. I stopped being scared, because there's a God. And nothing happens to you that's not supposed to happen to you. And if he wants you to survive, you're going to survive. And if he doesn't, you won't. But there's a plan and a place, and it was the first time I felt safe. It's the first time I felt safe, and the first time I slept without nightmares. Yeah. So to me, it was all gain. It was all gain. At work, they constantly ask me, there's so many rules and laws that you have to give. Don't you feel restricted? And I'm like, no, I feel liberated. I don't have to make the decisions. They're made for me. I feel no guilt because I know I'm doing the right thing.
My mother met men, so she remarried. My stepfather was in a different area, and his religion was very dry. All I saw is, no, we can't go for holiday because there's no kosher food. We can do this, we can, don't touch the fridge, don't look, don't do nothing. So it was just a horror story for me. She stayed there, she lived there because she loved it.
I loved him. I had a very warm relationship with my grandfather, who was a very, very quiet man, very quiet and very religious, very, very religious.
Rigid, that's the word.
My mother, it's rigid. To me, it was really earnest, true belief, To me, it was beautiful. To her, it was ugly. When I got married, I went into the dating process with a lot of thought. I was looking for someone that would treat me with kindness. That's exactly what I got. My husband's extremely kind, thoughtful, loving, most of these words. And he'll show his emotions. And my mother-in-law was extremely emotional. At first, I didn't know what to do with her, It was hard, but I saw how she interacted with my kids so lovingly. That was very healing. That was really, really very healing. They taught me. They helped me in what I call my recovery.
Okay, give it to Tati. Here. Give Tati. He's such a good boy.
What's familiar to you is what you know, and what you know is how you're going to behave. And yes, I really had to work on myself and say to myself, okay, this is what was said to me. I didn't like it. Let me find a different narrative to tell my child so that I can have a close relationship with them, make them emotionally, healthy, and prevent, the frustration that I went through. I would start with, what would I have wanted? What would I have appreciated? And sometimes I got it wrong, and I would tell my daughter, write down for me what you would have wanted me to say. And she would have told me, and I repeated it and said it for her. It's still hard for me, when the young ones cry, I get very frustrated. I don't know how to deal with it. It makes me angry as opposed to making me feel sympathetic for them. Something I still need to work on.
I spoke to my classmates back in Budapest, and we're still in touch on Facebook, and they said, Angi, we all screwed up. The Holocaust, whoever I spoke to, we all screwed up, big time. So I don't know what they did with their children because I left. All I can tell you, education was important for all of us. Life was not easy for me. After my mother's sickness came a financial disaster, restart life. Then my husband had a stroke. He was not able to work after. It was struggling life. Now I feel comfortable, I am okay. But until to get here, it never was easy. So I don't know how would I go through if I am not very strong inside. My birthday was always a big celebration with my mother. We were emotional about it. In 1984, she wrote to me, Drága Angikám, köszönöm a sorsnak, hogy vagy nekem. Három kívánság helyett én csak kettőt szeretnék megvalósulva látni, hogy az a csillag ott fönt elhárítsa a göröngyöket az utatból, ahogy azt nagyon sokszor tette velem. Légy boldog mindazokkal, akiket a te meleg kis szíved szeretettel vesz körül, anyud. She's doing much better than I do. I'm very proud of you. I'm very proud what you've achieved. I am very proud how you're raising your kids sometimes. Sometimes, you know, like I feel they're too spoiled because of the trauma in me, the Holocaust, and I am worried, like, you know, they won't be so strong because you do so much for them. You do. You don't notice it, but I see it from outside. And just worried how they're going to go through the life. But then I see Fegi, and then I am said, oh, it's nothing to worry. They are okay, and they're strong. And I want you to understand one thing. I always, always loved you, even if I couldn't show.
All I could really answer is what my kids tell me. But Ma, make sure they know I have no trauma. I have no trauma. So I hope I stopped it. I hope I stopped it here and I didn't pass it on.